Warning, this video is not targeted towards kids. There might be some horrible stuff I might say in here. You've been warned. Hey everyone, I know it's been a while since that incident. However, I am going to try to make a comeback with this new microphone I have. And what a perfect way to test out this microphone by talking about fuck! Highest to Lowest is a new film by Spike Lee, and it's a remake of the 1963 classic High and Low, directed by Akira Kurosawa. Both of these films have similar plots. The original film is about a shoe executive as his son gets kidnapped and he has to pay a ransom, but the kidnapper mistakenly takes the executive chauffeur's son, but he still has to pay the ransom. And the remake, instead of being a shoe executive, it's a music producer. So, how does the remake compare to the original? Well, I gotta say, the remake is one of the most frustrating films I ever seen. I'm not even being sarcastic. This movie frustrated the fuck out of me. But let me at least explain the things I did like. I think the acting is pretty decent for the most part. Denzel Washington does give a pretty good performance. I like how he plays this producer who does care about music and his integrity. And when shit does get real when it comes to the ransom money, and when the kidnapper kidnapped the wrong person, he's in this moral dilemma of what he should do, because the money that the kidnapper was asking for was supposed to go to a music deal that would have been life-changing for his career, and I felt like it worked for the most part, but we'll get to that later. Jeffrey Wright was pretty good as well. I didn't think his performance was as strong as Denzel's, but I did like him, and the other actors were pretty decent, except for one performance I'll get into later. The cinematography is good, although generic looking and could be any other film. And there are moments in the story that are pretty engaging. But this is where we're going to get to the negatives because my god, this film has a lot of problems. Spoiler alert if you care, go watch the original. When it comes to the original High and Low, there are parts in the film that does make sense and feel timeless. But when you are remaking that into modern day, there are some things you gotta consider, like how logical would the characters react in modern day. And not to mention, since the original film took place in the 60s, and there are some things that made sense in that film to happen. Like logically, security cameras weren't widely available and were still in their infancy, so it would make sense on why it took the police a while to find the kidnapper, and part of the investigation has to be based off of key eyewitnesses. But in the remake, it takes place in modern day New York City, and you're telling me that there's no security cameras? And there's a line that the police said that they'll look through the security cameras, but yet they never explain it. The film falls apart on that aspect, especially that the location that the characters are at. And mind you, it takes place in New York City. The security cameras should have caught something suspicious or even the kidnapper himself, but they never explain it. This could have been easily fixed if they explained that the kidnapper hired a hacker to hack the security cameras, so it would have explained on how they got away at first. Would it be cliched? Yes, but logically it would make sense. Another thing, when it comes to the ransom money, that whole thing makes no sense, because when you think about it, it could have been easily fixed, because when the main lead does give the ransom money, it leads to consequences on his end. What Denzel's character and the police should have done is have 20% of the money be real and the other 80% being counterfeit. That way, he still would have kept the majority of his money, but also the kidnapper would have had fake money, and the majority of the film would have been the same. Speaking of police, I hate the cop characters in this film. Now I know that a lot of times, cop characters in movies are pretty dumb or assholish, but my god, I hate how they're portrayed here. Especially how they act towards Jeffrey Wright's character. And I know that his character was an ex-convict, but why the fuck would he kidnap his own son? Especially that he's with Denzel's character the entire time. And since we're talking about characters, when it comes to the acting, it is decent, like I mentioned. But when it comes to the writing, some of the characters range from pretty unrealistic to overly exaggerated that annoyed the crap out of me. I am trying pretty hard not to compare this to the original High and Low, even if I never watched the original film. The remake on the other hand, the way it's directed, it's all over the place. There'll be times when the directing is solid, and other times, it's like, wow, you did not give a shit. One main example, when Denzel's character got a phone call, and when he finds out that his son got kidnapped, the way the scene was directed, it felt pretty comedic. And another scene with Denzel's character, when he makes his final decision on what he should do, it should have been pretty powerful, but then all of a sudden he starts talking to himself like a crazy man. And I was like, is this supposed to be funny? Or am I supposed to take this serious? And about the comedy in this film, the jokes didn't work for me. That's all I'm going to say because jokes are subjective. But one of the worst aspects about this film is the editing. My fucking god, the editing. At first when the film started, it was pretty decent. But as soon as we meet Denzel's character, there were so many constant cuts, I was like, oh no. Now you may think I might be over exaggerating, but when you watch the film itself, the first hour is a lot of bad cuts. Like here's an example. When the son and the friend meet each other, they give each other bro hugs, and usually you would just have like one shot of them doing it and then cut to another part. But for some reason, when they gave each other bro hugs, there are two cuts of the same fucking scene but in a different angle, and I was like, did you not have a good take of them doing that? And there are other scenes that had the exact same problem. And when it comes to the pacing, my god, the editing does not help. The first hour is pretty bad. That almost put me to sleep. Like, even though the story was going, the issue is how it was edited. The editing made some scenes go by way too fast, leaving me not to care about the characters. And not to mention, even with these fast cuts, it made the film pretty slow. The editing is so bad, it makes Bohemian Rhapsody look like f***ing Parasite in comparison. Another big issue with this film is the music. And no, I'm not talking about the money that they paid to get the licensing. I'm talking about the original score. And my god, it's f***ing generic. There are times in this film where the music didn't fit the tone, or when the emotional stuff happened, I would have felt that emotion if the music wasn't so goddamn cheesy. I'm not kidding you. The scene when Denzel's character found out his son got kidnapped, but the music that they played, it was so cheesy, I was about to laugh in the theater. Like, come on, Spike Lee. You're supposed to be on the same level as Steve McQueen, not f***ing Tyler Perry. Now I think about it, for how this film is poorly edited, to how the music is just generic as hell, to how the characters are, to logical bullshit that this film pulls off, this feels like a high-budget Tyler Perry production. There's one character I haven't mentioned, and that is the kidnapper. And he is played by A$AP Rocky, and his performance is not that good. When Denzel and A$AP's characters interact, it's just the way they talk to each other feels pretty off. Oh, and this film has one of the most cringiest moments I've seen in a film in a long time. When A$AP's character gets caught, Denzel was told that he needs to talk alone with A$AP's character. So when he does that, for some reason, there's some weird dreamlike sequence musical bullshit. It felt so tryhard. But then as soon as it shows big booty bitches twerking behind him at times, I was like, what the f*** am I watching? And look, I like big booty women and femboys, but here, when it happened, it really turned me off in that moment. This film is just a mess. It baffles me that it has an 89% on Rotten Tomatoes. It baffles me that it's made by A24. And it frustrates me more that one of the production companies behind this film is Kurosawa Productions. Like,
are you fucking kidding me?
And apparently, this remake was in development hell for over 35 years. I wonder why. Like, Spike Lee, you've been making films since the 80s, but yet this feels like your first ever film. And one advice I gotta give to you, Spike Lee, never remake another Asian film again. You already did that with Old Boy, and no one liked that giant pile of shit. So why would you remake another Asian classic? My advice, keep making original films. Clearly, you're not qualified to do remakes. Overall, this film was just frustrating. As much as Snow White was pretty bad, an update, my rating for that went to a 3 out of 10. But that film didn't frustrate me. It was bad for sure, but it was just so bad, it's boring. But this film, it's just so bad, it's just frustrating because this is made by someone who knows their shit. But yet, this feels like this was a first time directed film. So overall, I'm giving highest to lowest a 4 out of 10. And if you're wondering about the original film, I give that one a 9 out of 10. Yeah, a huge difference. I honestly hope Your Movie Sucks does a review on this film because I want him to tear this film a new asshole. Anyway, that was my review of highest to lowest. What you guys think about the film? And let me know how this mic sounds to you guys. If you want to catch up on what movies I've seen, go to my letterbox in the description. I'm Ricky the Kitsune, signing off.